Coming up today, campaigning for the 2016 general election kicks up a gear with just 6 days left before polling stations open. The party leaders are throwing their weight behind their candidates. Helped by strong sales of its Galaxy S7 range of smartphones, Samsung Electronics posted better than expected earnings in the first quarter. First, in a bid to tackle diabetes and rising obesity rates, the Korean government announces plans to slash the nation's sugar consumption. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Thursday, the 7th of April. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. The countdown to the April 13th general election is our starting point this lunchtime. There are now just 6 days until election day, and another busy day of campaigning is on the cards for the candidates looking to secure a seat in Korea's National Assembly. But despite election day being just around the corner, the main parties have not been able to put that much space between them and the competition. Ji Myung-gil starts us off.
With under a week to go before Koreans cast their ballots, opinion polls show races in a number of electoral districts are too close to call. Therefore, the leaders of the ruling Saenuri Party, main opposition Minju Party of Korea, and newly formed minor opposition People's Party have started stumping for their party candidates in Seoul and other metropolitan cities. 122 seats are up for grabs in Seoul and its surrounding Gyeonggi-do province, making up nearly half of the 253 electoral seats. The ruling party has seen its voter support turn relatively sour in Seoul and metropolitan areas, according to polls conducted by Real Meter from April 1st to 4th, following a nasty poll struggle last month over candidate nominations. The Minju Party, dealing with a split of votes caused by the splinter People's Party, isn't in much better shape. However, the Real Meter polls show that the surging popularity of the People's Party is making it a powerful challenger to the two main parties in the run-up to the April 13th contest. As the three parties scramble to garner public support, a two-day early voting period will start on Friday. Voters can cast their ballots in some 3,500 polling booths nationwide from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Korea time. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
And we'll be bringing you comprehensive coverage of election 2016 next week on Wednesday, election day, and of course on Thursday when all the results should be out. Now, it was an earnings surprise for Samsung Electronics. The Korean tech giant posted stronger than expected earnings in the first 3 months of this year. Analysts mainly attribute the spike to bumper sales of its new smartphone models, the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge. Kim Min-ji with the details.
Samsung Electronics posted better than expected earnings in the first quarter of this year. According to the company's earnings guidance, operating profits stood at roughly $5.7 billion during the January to March period, up more than 10% from a year ago. Sales edged up almost 4% on year to over $42 billion. The operating profit estimate beats the recent market consensus of about $4.8 billion. Analysts attribute the surprise earnings to better than expected sales of Samsung's new flagship smartphone models released last month. Sales are estimated at over 10 million units so far. On top of that, Samsung is expected to have benefited from favorable currency effects. A stronger greenback means more profits as transactions of components are made using the dollar, and for finished goods, it means products gain price competitiveness in overseas markets. Sales of Samsung's premium chips are also expected to have given its semiconductor arm a boost. The guidance figure does not break down performance by sector. The company's finalized earnings will be announced later this month. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, amid the ongoing Panama Papers scandal exposing millions of records of offshore entities, a Korean industry tracker has revealed that billions of dollars from tax havens have made their way Into the Korean stock market, Oh Young reports.
More than 2.3 billion US dollars. That's the amount that flowed into Korea's equity market from major tax havens around the world, according to Thursday's data from Taebo.com. Based on Tuesday's market close, the industry tracker found the amount of tax haven capital accounts for more than 6% of all foreign investment in the Korean stock market. And where did the money come from? Most of it, or more than $870 million, was tracked to the Virgin Islands, followed by Bermuda, the Cayman Islands and Switzerland. But that's only half the picture. If suspected tax havens such as Singapore, Hong Kong, the Netherlands and Ireland are included, the amount of capital from offshore havens is an estimated $13 billion. Some analysts say that Korean nationals, or the so-called black-haired foreigners, are among these foreign investors who set up offshore shell companies to keep their assets under wraps. This comes amid the Panama Papers scandal, which leaked millions of records on offshore accounts. Korea's Financial Supervisory Service has vowed to investigate the 195 Koreans on the list to see if they violated the Foreign Exchange Transaction Act. Oh Young, Arirang News.
Global oil prices surged by an average of more than 5% on Wednesday as US crude inventories dropped and refineries upped demand in preparation for the summer. According to the New York Mercantile Exchange, crude futures for delivery in May jumped 5.2%, closing at $37.75 a barrel, the biggest daily increase since mid-March. However, it does remain to be seen whether prices will stabilize as persistent oversupply remains a problem. Major oil-producing countries are expected to forward a proposal to limit crude output at a meeting of OPEC and non-OPEC countries on April 17th in Qatar. Korea's consumer prices grew even further in March when homeowners' possible renting costs are taken into account. According to Statistics Korea, consumer prices, including earnings from leasing, rose by 1.4% in March from the previous year, 0.4 percentage points higher than the nation's consumer price index gain of 1% over the same period. Now, earnings from leasing are calculated by assuming that homeowners rent their homes and take into account the changes in jeonse, which is a lump sum deposit rent system, and monthly rent prices. Up until 2010, the on-year gain of consumer prices, including lease earnings, was smaller than that of consumer prices. The agency attributes the widened gap in the two figures to surging jeonse prices, which rose by over 6% in 2015 from the previous year. South Korea and the International Atomic Energy Agency held high-level talks in Seoul on Thursday in which they discussed ways for stronger cooperation on how to effectively deal with global nuclear proliferation issues. Now, the two sides, led by South Korea's Deputy Minister for Multilateral and Global Affairs, Choi Jong-moon, and IAEA Deputy Director General Tero Valioranta, discussed the nuclear threat posed by North Korea amid concerns of a possible fifth nuclear test. They also talked about ways to strengthen nuclear safety measures. This is the fourth round of consultations, which began in 2013 and comes ahead of an IAEA ministerial meeting on nuclear security later this year. That will be chaired by Seoul's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se. US Secretary of State John Kerry has slammed Republican frontrunner Donald Trump's recent remarks that South Korea and Japan should develop their own nuclear weapons for self-defense. Kerry says his comments contradict decades-old American foreign policy and threaten global peace. Park Jung-hong reports.
The top U.S. diplomat has blasted Donald Trump. John Kerry says Trump's suggestion that South Korea and Japan fend for themselves with nuclear weapons grossly violates peace and stability.
I can't think of anything that would be more volatile, more contrary to peace and stability of the region,
In an interview with broadcaster PBS this week, Kerry noted that countries around the world are gravely concerned about the Republican frontrunner, and that when he travels, he is often asked questions like, "What has happened in the United States? What has happened to your politics?" He added that Trump's nuclear armament suggestion goes completely against the commitment of every president since World War II, which has been to try and minimize the risk of nuclear weapons. The billionaire property developer told the New York Times last month the U.S. is no longer rich enough to defend other countries and suggested allowing Seoul and Tokyo to go nuclear. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
The US Federal Reserve has signaled that an interest rate hike in April is unlikely, according to minutes from the Fed's March meeting released on Wednesday. Several Fed officials argued that a cautious approach to raising rates would be prudent, or noted that raising the target range in April would signal an inappropriate sense of urgency. The minutes indicated that some officials want to raise rates as soon as April if incoming economic data remain consistent with their expectations for moderate growth in output. Last week, Fed Chair Janet Yellen said the central bank will proceed cautiously in adjusting policy given the risks to the outlook. The Fed's next meeting will be held on April 26th and 27th. The number of adults with diabetes has quadrupled worldwide to 422 million in the space of less than 40 years, and the condition is fast becoming a major problem in poorer countries. This is according to one of the most extensive studies ever done on diabetes by the World Health Organization. The study noted that the leading cause is above average body weight and obesity. As of 2014, it pointed out that 1 in 3 adults over 18 years of age were overweight and 1 in 10 were obese. That's globally. Diabetes is a lifelong condition that can lead to blindness, kidney failure, heart attacks and stroke. It killed 3.7 million people in 2012, and 43% of the deaths occurred in people under the age of 70. Margaret Chan, the WHO's Director General, said the findings showed an urgent need to address unhealthy diets and lifestyles around the world. And the Korean government has declared war on sugar in a fight to tackle rising obesity and diabetes rates here in the nation. Korea's Ministry of Food and Drug Safety announced a 4-year plan on this Thursday to lower national sugar intake levels to less than 10% of a person's daily diet. On average, that works out to about 17 sugar cubes a day. Studies have shown that people who consume more than that are 66% more likely to have high blood pressure and 41% more likely to get diabetes. The government will also make sugar labelling clearer and put warnings on products with high sugar content. The information will start appearing on cereals and products containing chocolate, cocoa by next year. Now, a team of scientists from the US and Germany has discovered an enormous black hole with a mass equivalent to 17 billion suns. The black hole is located in the center of a galaxy that is 200 million light years away from Earth, fortunately, and it's a region of space where nothing, including light, can escape because of such strong gravitational effects. The scientists speculate that a collision of 2 black holes created the supermassive cosmic entity. The discovery was published in the latest edition of Nature magazine. Back here on Earth, and global sales of the Hyundai Tucson have surpassed the 4 million mark on the back of strong sales in Europe and China, according to Seoul-based Yonhap news agency. The figure includes the combined sales of the previous 2 models launched in 2004 and 2009, as well as the current model. The 3rd generation compact SUV has seen a steady rise in its sales since its launch in March of last year, particularly in the European crossover SUV market. Sales of the vehicle in China also increased dramatically after it appeared in the Korean drama Descendants of the Sun, which is extremely popular there. Now, we're going to leave you with a brief weather update, because if you're in Korea, we are just getting enough rain today to clear away some of the air pollution, but the skies should clear up later this afternoon. The southern coastal region is seeing the most rainfall, with 5 to 20 millimetres expected, while less than 5 millimetres has fallen on the capital and other parts of the country. Overall, we do have a sunny afternoon ahead of us. Highs will be between 15 and 22 degrees Celsius around the country, although there will be some gusty winds blowing throughout the day. So it might feel a touch chilly. This evening we'll be seeing some fog rolling in over the western coast and central region. So if you are planning to drive in those areas, do take care. Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you, as always, for watching our newscasts. And we have plenty more good programming coming up on Arirang TV, so do stay tuned. We'll be back with our next newscast coming up at 3 p.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.